Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hi, welcome, and if you're back from another video, thank you so much for coming back. My name is Charlene and this is my YouTube channel where I talk mainly about books but also about travel and a little bit of lifestyle. And as you may have guessed from the title of this video, this is how long it takes a slow reader to read 11/22/63 by Stephen King. So as an avid reader and a person who absolutely loves books, I get quite a lot of book recommendations from friends and family, which is great. I love it, except for when you're a slow reader and your husband recommends you one of the longest books ever. My husband is also an avid reader and a massive Stephen King fan, and so his recommendation to me always has been 11/22/63 by Stephen King. And don't get me wrong, I've heard nothing but good things about this book. Like everywhere I turn, people are absolutely loving it. 5-star, 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 best book I've ever read. But it's too long. I wanted to read this book for some time, but I've always felt a little bit intimidated by the length of this book, just because I'm a slow reader and I know it's going to take me an age. So I've just got Goodreads up on my phone here and it is 740 pages, which would be by far the longest book that I've ever read up until now. So, and by the way, the average review and rating on Goodreads is 4.34, and every time I watch anybody's like, these are my top 5 books and things like that, this book is always in there, and I've heard so many people banging on about it. So my time has come. I must read this book. I've been challenged by my husband. So we're going to see how long does it take a slow reader to read 11/22/63. And to prepare for it, not only have I bought the paperback version of the book, my husband's got the hardback and that's just far too intimidating, but I've also downloaded the book on Audible to give me a little helping hand. So my plan is this. Every night before bed, when I would read normally, I will be reading 11/22/63. And any time that I have a spare little moment in the day, I don't want to rush myself or pressure myself, but any time that I have a little kind of like pocket of time in the day, maybe on my lunch break or if I'm driving somewhere or getting ready, things like that, I'll be listening to the audiobook. So together we will see how long will it take me to read this absolute chunk of a book. So I'll be recording little clips of me reading the book and I'll be checking in with you throughout the video to let you know how it's going and how long it's taking me. So I guess I better get started.
One of them was an aversion to state prison or the electric chair.
Good girl. Okay, so it's been a few days now and I thought I'd do a little check-in with where I'm at. And I actually realised I didn't even read the blurb in the beginning of my video. So let me just start there. So 11/22/63. So the blurb says, on November 22, 1963, 3 shots rang out in Dallas, President Kennedy died and the world changed, unless... In 2011, Jake Epping, an English teacher from Lisbon Falls, Maine, sets out on an insane and insanely possible mission to prevent the Kennedy assassination. Leaving behind a world of computers and mobile phones, he goes back to a time of big American cars and diners, of Lindy hopping, the sound of Elvis, and the taste of root beer. In this haunting world, Jake falls in love with Sadie, a beautiful high school librarian, and as the ominous date of 11/22/63 approaches, he encounters a troubled loner named Lee Harvey Oswald. So that is the blurb of the book, and it just popped into my head that I hadn't even read that. So this is, like I said in my intro, my husband's most favorite book of all time, and I have been putting it off for a while because of how long it is and yeah, how intimidating the book is to me. But I finally got round to it and I started reading it. It's probably been about 3 days now, and I'm up to chapter 7, which is page 133. So I mean, that's not actually too bad for me, but I've been kind of hopping between reading the book and listening to it on Audible. I think I need to kind of like, I don't want to rush it by any means, but I think I need to put a little bit more time into reading it and to listening to it while I'm working and things like that. I think that's going to be the only way that I'm going to be able to finish this book in anything less than a month. So that's where I'm at so far. I can't tell you too much, so because obviously I don't want to give away everything, but I'll give you a brief, based on the blurb and what you already know, I'll give you a brief outline of where I already am. So Jake Epping, he's the main character, and he is an English teacher at a high school in Maine in America, and his friend who runs a diner called Al is not very well, and he's got a few things to tell him, and so he goes and has a conversation with Al, and Al introduces him to this whole time traveler concept. And I'm not going to go into like the specifics of how that works out because that will give away too much. But Jake's basically gone into the past twice now. This is the second time, and this is like a little test run before he sees about trying to stop the Kennedy assassination, which is definitely being kind of like pushed onto him by Al. Before he even tries to approach that, he's doing like a little test run. So he's gone in, this is his second time. The first one was just kind of like a little look around. This is his second time, and he's trying to stop something else from happening, which he knows in the future has happened. But there's also loads of rules to this time travel. Like if you go back into the past and change something and then come back out and go back in, basically each time you go in is a reset. So basically he needs to go in, make sure that he does exactly what he needs to do, and then come out and leaves it there. So that's where I'm at the moment. He's in the past at the moment where I'm reading it, and he's trying to stop this other situation from happening. And it is just so, it's so like interesting, and like I feel like I'm there with him. I feel like I'm in like old America. The way Stephen King describes like the scenery and the tastes of everything is much stronger because they haven't got as many preservatives and stuff back then. And just, yeah, everything seems much more kind of like vivid and colourful in the past. So I'm really enjoying it so far. My husband says it's a straight 5 out of 5. I have no idea what I'm going to score it in the end, but all I know is right now I'm really enjoying it. So I'm going to crack back on. I'm going to keep reading it. I'm going to listen to my Audible book, and hopefully this won't take me an absolute age to finish, but I will let you know and keep checking back in with you. So it's just over a week later since I started reading 11/22/63, and I just thought I'd give you a quick update as to where I am. So I've just reached, as of literally 5 minutes ago, chapter 13, which is page 279. So I've still got quite a way to go. There's 740 pages, so I've still got ages to go. But so far I'm really enjoying this book. I knew I'd enjoy it probably because 2 Stephen King books are in my top 5 favourite books, and also because everybody I've ever heard speak about this book absolutely loves it. But it's so much more interesting than I thought it would be. Obviously I don't want to give too much away because I don't want this to be full of spoilers, but the main character is kind of like it's about time travel basically, and about him going back in time to try and stop the JFK assassination. But before he does that, there's like lots of different things that he wants to do as well while he's back in time. And while he's back there, he gets kicked out. I think it's 1958. That's where every time you step back in this portal, back in time, it brings you to the same day in history. So he's in like 1958, I think, when he first comes out. So he's got to wait like a good few years. I think it's about 5 years until the JFK assassination takes place. So it's really interesting to kind of discover America in that time period of when he's back in time, spending those 5 years just living. He kind of hops about from town to town and place to place, and it's really, really interesting. It also gives you a lot of like historical context in terms of like what it was like to be in different kind of like classes and different races and what people were generally like that time. And it, you know, in one aspect it kind of like has this rose tinted glasses kind of view of old Americana kind of vibes, but then in the other it's also showing you the reality of what things were like in that time, especially for like, you know, different races. So yeah, it's really, really interesting to see what it was actually like at that time. One of the things I found really interesting about the time travel aspect is that one of the rules are no matter how long you spend in the past, when you come back in the future, it's always 2 minutes. You've always just been gone for 2 minutes. So I'm really interested to see as we go through this book, because he is, in where I am in the book, he's been back in time for a while now. And so I'm really interested to see what comes of his time there, how long he spends there, whether he's able to achieve his mission or not, and what happens when he gets back. Like, what's the present look like after he's altered the past? What is he like? Because although he's only been gone for 2 minutes in present, he's been gone for years in the past. And so it's like, surely that must have an effect on him or his body or whatever. I don't know. But I just wanted to give you a very quick and brief update of where I am. I'm really enjoying it so far. There are aspects about this book that remind me of Billy Summers, which is obviously written by Stephen King as well. And I won't go into too much detail as to why, but yeah, just I find that Stephen King, obviously we all know that he writes a lot about writers, and there's this like certain storyline that runs through Billy Summers and is also running through this book, of the main character kind of writing as he goes. And I just find that really, really fascinating because it reminds me so much of that book, but it's done in a different way. And yeah, it's like clear that he just sticks to what he likes and what he knows. But it works really well. It does. It works really well because it also gives you, that's kind of your narration. That's what's telling the story. So I love that. So yeah, like I said, I've been going at this for just over a week. I'm only on chapter 13. Page 279. I've got absolutely ages to go and I really don't want to be reading this book for the whole month, so I'd better crack on. I'm gonna make sure I'm listening to it more on Audible. I've had a really busy week and so I haven't been able to listen to it as much as I would have liked to. So this week I'm going to do my very best. I'm traveling a little bit more this week for work and stuff like that, so I'm just going to make sure that I'm listening to the audiobook as much as I can, like at every possible scenario, and that I'm spending longer reading as well. And I really, really hope, I don't want to rush myself, of course, that's like absolutely not what I'm about at all. Like, I would rather take a month reading this book and absorb every single word and not rush myself. But I don't really want to take a month. I'd like to get it wrapped up in a couple of weeks if I can, purely because I'm just so eager to find out what happens. Like, I'm really, really enjoying it so far and I can completely see why people like it. So that's where I'm at for now. I will continue to give you updates and I will check back in at the end when I'm finished the book to let you know what I thought of the story.
And the great state of Texas want integration? They do not. They see it as a slap in the face. Although I didn't finally go under until the wee hours. If you hadn't come, I might have slept right through the damn assassination. Oh, Law, she said. What do we do? Sadie asked in a low voice. We took out an insurance policy. Now we file a claim. Sadie said she was born on the Georgia draw. Thank goodness we weren't on the highway.
Finished and give me a minute. Where do I start? Okay, I guess I should probably start with how long it's taken me to read this book, because that's what this video was all about. So, how long has it taken me, a slow reader, to read 11/22/63 by Stephen King? And it has taken me 2 weeks, and I am so pleased with that. And I just want to emphasize that I if this had been any other book, it would have taken me so much longer, maybe even a month, but I've never spent so much time and committed so much time and energy to a book ever as this one. I've been reading it every single chance I get. I've been reading it on my lunch breaks. I've been reading it before bed. I've been listening to the audiobook pretty much all day, every day while I've been working. I'm getting ready in the mornings and I'm listening to the audiobook. I'm pottering around the house and I'm listening to the audiobook. So under normal circumstances, if I'd been reading this book like any other book and just kind of reading it before I go to bed and here and there on my lunch and whatever, it would have taken me so much longer. But with all of the kind of commitment and effort and concentration on it and listening to it and reading it all the time, it's taken me 2 weeks. And I'm really, really, really pleased with that, especially as a slow reader. Like 740 pages. This book is one that I've wanted to read for a really, really long time, but that has intimidated me and been daunting to me for absolutely ages. So that's why it's taken me so long to get round to. All 740 pages, it has taken me 2 weeks and I couldn't be happier with that. Just to re-emphasize as well, I am a very slow reader, and if this was any other book, it would have taken me miles longer. I've not been like pushing myself or trying to speed it up for the sake of saying, oh, I've read it in 2 weeks or whatever. It's just that it has gripped me so much and I've been so involved in the story, and in like listening, it's become part of my routine now to like listen to it while I'm working and to read it when I'm not. And it's been like my whole world for like 2 weeks. So it's not that I've been like racing myself, I've just been so invested in it. And yeah, I'm very, very pleased with myself as a slow reader that it's taken me 2 weeks, but it could have just as easily taken me a month or two. So where the hell do I start talking about this book? This has been such a journey. It's such a long book. It's 740 pages, and there's nothing that I can say in a no spoilers review video that's going to be able to give you the amount of information that I'd want to give you and tell you everything there is to tell you about this book. I'm not going to do that because I don't want this to be packed full of spoilers. And I also know that whatever I say in this video, like I'm going to watch back and I'm going to be like, oh, I forgot to say this, I forgot to say that. Like I can never get across everything that I want to get across in this like brief little wrap up of 11/22/63, and especially without giving away spoilers. So I will start with, I'm pretty sure I've already read the blurb, but if not, I'm going to do it again really quickly. So, on November 22, 1963, 3 shots rang out in Dallas. President Kennedy died and the world changed, unless... In 2011, Jake Epping, an English teacher from Lisbon Falls, Maine, sets out on an insane and insanely possible mission to prevent the Kennedy assassination. Leaving behind a world of computers and mobile phones, he goes back to a time of big American cars and diners, of Lindy hopping, the sound of Elvis, and the taste of root beer. In this haunting world, Jake falls in love with Sadie, a beautiful high school librarian, and as the ominous date of 11/22/63 approaches, he encounters a troubled loner named Lee Harvey Oswald. So, I've literally just finished reading this book. You saw me reading the final pages, and before I turned on the camera, I was having a real good cry at like the last chapter or so, and my husband's been like, are you all right? Because I've just been crying so much. But let's get on to Goodreads. So the average rating for 11/22/63 on Goodreads is 4.34. Of those ratings, 52% of people scored it a 5 out of 5, 33% of people scored it a 4 out of 5, 10% scored it a 3, and a 2% scored it 2. I don't know what those people were thinking about. Obviously, up to you what you think, but I don't know how I've read the same book as those people and then nobody scored it a 1 star, and I don't even know where to begin talking about this book. So you'll know I started reading this because it's my husband's favourite book of all time. He scores it a 6 star. This is his one and only 6-star book, and to him this is absolutely perfect. And having read, some of the books in my top 5 are Misery and Billy Summers, and I really have been enjoying Stephen King's writing. I've been fairly recent you know, I haven't read Stephen King before like last year, so it's only fairly recently that I've started digging into his stories, and this one really did scare and intimidate me just because of how long it is, and also how much I know my husband likes it. Like, I obviously wanted to like it as much as he did and give it justice and everything. But yeah, oh my god. Okay, so very, very briefly, here we go. Please forgive me if I miss stuff out, which I absolutely will do, but I'm also trying to recap it in a very streamlined, non-spoiler way. Okay, so there's a character called Jake Epping, who is an English teacher who lives in 2011, and he is friends with a guy called Al who owns the local diner, and Al has become very, very sick with cancer, and he knows he hasn't got long left, and there's a mission that he wants to achieve which he just doesn't have the energy to do anymore. So he calls in his friend Jake, and he shows him something that basically allows him to travel back in time. I'm not going to tell you exactly what, you will find that out for yourselves, but he finds something that allows him back in time and convinces him that the most important thing in the whole world that he could ever do is to go back in time and stop the JFK assassination, which is obviously like, what? Like, that's a massive, massive thing to do. Also, a little snag here is that the way that he travels back in time, it gets him out in 1958, and the JFK assassination doesn't take place until 1963, so that's 5 years. One of the conditions of this time travel is that no matter how long you spend in the past, when you come back out into the present, you've only been gone 2 minutes. No matter how long you've been gone for actually in the past, you've only been gone for 2 minutes. Another snag or another rule of the time travel is that if you change something in the past and then you come back out into the future, or the present, sorry, and then you go back again, basically each time you go back is a reset. So it will undo anything you've done previously if you go back in time again. So this is the story of Jake Epping, otherwise known as George Amberson, who goes back in time to try and stop the JFK assassination. That's the plot in a nutshell. However, if you're expecting a book that's like full of information and conspiracy and stuff about JFK, like, yes, it does have all of that like rough information about like what a lot of the conspiracy theories were and what happened on that day and all of that. It very much has got that information. But if you're expecting the entire book to be like a huge 740 page manual of everything that happened in the JFK assassination, then you're going to be disappointed, because it's not just about that. It is also a love story. It is also about time travel, and so much more than that. Like, when I think back about the book, although everything was leading up to this day, 11/22/63, and the JFK assassination, actually the part of it was actually very small in comparison to the story in its entirety. What happens when Jake goes back in time? He steps out into 1958 America, and it's so cool. Like, I always think, like, if I could visit a point in time, I would visit the 1950s in America. Like, it just seems so iconic and so cool, and I would love to have gone and been able to see that time, and that's exactly where Jake steps out into. It's definitely not all sunshine and rainbows at all, because if you think about that time in history, there are so many like political and racial issues, and you kind of led into it with like rose-tinted glasses on, the way that it's being described at first, and then when actually the realities of the time and what it's like for different races to live in that time becomes a reality. It's so very hard to read at times, and to think like that actually wasn't even that long ago with all this stuff was going on. So you learn about the time period as a whole. You learn about what Jake / George is doing this whole time, which I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to give away. But there's a few other important things that he does on his travel back to the past. And part of that, as you will see on, you know, in the blurb, which I just read to you, so I'm not giving anything away, is that he falls in love. And this love story, I'm not really one for love stories, like romantic novels or whatever. I'm not really one for that. But this is such a honest, raw, authentic love story. It's not cheesy, it's not tacky, it's real, and it draws you in and it pulls on your heartstrings. And yeah, what I was just talking to my husband about this book and about Stephen King's writing, and what we both agree is that Stephen King's writing can make you feel like you know a character like you know them in real life. You know every single part of them down to like what they look like, what they think, like who they are to their core, who they are as a person. And so I really fell in love and connected with these characters. It is just such an amazing book, and throughout it, like I am a slow reader and I get a little bit lost in long stories, and so throughout it I was like, oh gosh, you know, this I'm nowhere near the JFK stuff happening and I still got ages to go. However, all of that is completely necessary. There's not one part that I don't think you could have got rid of, because you need that build up and you need that information to discover everything there is to know about the characters, why they are the way they are, what life is like in that time, what really would have happened if somebody had stepped back in time to prevent this happening and they had to wait 5 years. What would their lives have looked like? Like, you don't want to just jump to the event itself, because what else is going on in that whole time? And Stephen King does such a great job at describing the story and the lives of these characters, what it was like at that time, this love story that unravels, the friendships he makes, just like how he falls in love with a time period as well, and what the life is like in that time period, who he is in that time period. It's completely different for him, and there is absolutely no wasted time. Like if you're thinking, oh, 740 pages, like that's a really long story, it's intimidating, just know that no matter how much and how much time and how long it takes you to read, it is completely worth it. There is no wasted time, there's no dry time, it's all completely necessary, and you will love every single part of it. One of my favourite books that's in my top 5 books of all time is Billy Summers from Stephen King. And I read Billy Summers obviously before I read 11/22/63, and I did find that there were a few similarities between the two stories. So I feel like if you like one, you'll like the other. Also, a lot of people just think of Stephen King as a horror writer, and Stephen King's horror books are at all not my favourite. It is books like Billy Summers and 11/22/63 and Misery that are my favourite Stephen King writings. And yeah, there's a few similarities between Billy Summers and 11/22/63. One is that they're both writing. The characters themselves are quite similar, but Billy Summers is just a bit kind of like rougher around the edges and a bit edgier. But also they're both leading up to this like major point in time, which you're kind of like, as the reader, you know that this point in time is coming, and you're feeling the nerves and the anxiety and everything ramp up towards that time, just like the characters are. So they both have those things in common, and they both address as well the before, during and after, which is what I love about both stories. It'd be so easy to write a story about the JFK assassination and just focus on a little bit of time travel before, then the event itself, and then that's it. But the whole thing was so interesting that he followed it through, beginning, middle and end, and you even get to see the outcome without giving anything away of what the world could look like if that had have happened. And yeah, I find the concept of like conspiracies are interesting to me anyway. Like I know so a lot of them are like absolutely nothing, but I just find them interesting anyway. So conspiracies are interesting to me, but also like the concept of time travel. Like how nuts would it be to be able to change the past, but also how much of a knock-on effect does that have on the future? It's really a lot to get your head around. Honestly, having read this book, I really don't understand how anybody could score it anything below a 5 out of 5. So that is what I'm going to be scoring. Stephen King, 11/22/63 is 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved reading it from start to finish. I still feel a little bit emotional right now for some reason, having read the ending of the book. But anyway, yeah, it pulls on your heartstrings. It's so complete of a story. It's all encompassing. Like for 2 weeks, this was my absolute world, and I just absolutely loved reading it and listening to it. I'm pretty sure, just to mention as well, I did find one mistake in the book, and that is while they're talking about one character and then they accidentally call it another character's name, and that was on page 202. So I think that I might have found a mistake there. I could be wrong, of course, but if let me know if you've noticed that too. But yeah, I loved the book. I'm so glad that I read it and gave the time to it. If you're a slow reader as well, please don't be daunted or intimidated by it. It is very much worth it, no matter how long it takes you. It's such like a story that just wraps you up in the whole world. Like, I know every character, I know the setting. I'm gonna miss reading it, I'm gonna miss being in this world, and I just blah. I don't know how much more I can say about it. I cried at it, of course, you've just seen that I had a little tear in my eye, but throughout it I cried a few times, and I've never done that with anything else other than a Stephen King book, so I don't know what that tells you, but yeah. I loved reading it. I will score it a 5 out of 5. It will definitely be a story that I'll never forget and that will live inside my head. I loved the conspiracy elements of it. I loved the time travel elements of it. I loved the love story part of it. I loved the characters. I loved the setting. There's really nothing that I didn't like about it, other than those parts that I've already said to you were a little bit hard to read about, like different races at the time and things like that, but that I guess has to be there because that's the truth of the world at the time, and that's what you need to understand about the time. It wasn't all, you know, sunshine and rainbows. It was a very difficult time to live in, and that part was like hard to read in places where it was like, oh god, I can't believe people went through that, and these are the words that people were saying to each other, and this segregation existed. But that's important to put into the book because it was a reality of the time. So there's nothing bad that I can say about this book. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. I'm so proud of myself as a slow reader that I read it within 2 weeks. Really enjoyed listening to the audiobook as well. The person who does the audiobook is so great. And as well, at the end, Stephen King does an afterword, which is very interesting. So if you listen to the audiobook, make sure you listen to that part as well. It was great. I absolutely loved it, and I would highly recommend to any of you guys to read as well. If you have read it, please let me know, spoiler free, in the comments what you thought. Thank you so much for your time, for watching this video, for reading along with me, and for going on this little journey with me as a slow reader, reading 11/22/63. I've loved this book, and I'd be so interested to know what you thought as well. Spoiler free, of course, in the comments. Let me know if you're planning on reading this book, if you're a slow reader too. So many of you have been reaching out to me saying that you're slow readers, and I love it. Like, slow readers unite. Yeah, just get in contact with me if you can recommend me any books that you think I might like, or if you want any recommendations from me. I would love you forever and ever if you would like this video and you would subscribe to my little channel. And yeah, I feel like I need a nap now. I'm tired and I'm emotionally drained, sorry. And I think that I'm gonna be thinking about this book and everything that I should have said that I didn't in this wrap up. And yeah, it's just been such a ride. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you, bye.